Hi everyone and welcome to another video on the forking guide to chess openings, and in this episode I'm bringing you an opening to play as black. And this is the Scandinavian defense. It's one of my favorite openings to play as black against e4 alongside with the French defense. I really like to play this one, especially against lower rated opponents, because it's a fairly easy system to play. You don't have to memorize as many variations. It's pretty good to play against as a beginner and against lower rated players. Some people will try to discourage you by saying this opening is bad, but it's actually really good. And there are some really interesting variations to play as well. I'm not going to show all the variations in this video, but I'm going to show the most interesting one that I use to play against my opponents. And of course, since it's an opening that we play against e4, we have to play this. We have to wait for this opportunity to play against e4. So here we have the starting position of the Scandinavian defense, and the most common move here for white might try to do something else here, like maybe placing another pawn here or trying to defend this pawn. But the most common move is to just take the pawn. And as they take, you just take with the queen. And by doing that, 99% of the time, your opponents are going to play this knight here, trying to attack the queen and develop with a tempo. That's why a lot of people discourage playing this opening, but it's actually fairly simple to escape from this attack. You just slide the queen here to a5, which is a very safe square for the queen. It's hard to attack it here, so it's not a big deal. You just have to keep in mind that in any case, this bishop comes here and try to attack, or any other move that is a little bit dangerous for this queen, this move should be in mind, okay? So c6 should be a move to keep in mind, just in case you see things starting to become a little dangerous. You play c6 because then you can retreat your queen to either here or here, and it's not going to be a big deal. But this is the following variation that I usually play the most. More often than not, your opponents are going to play knight here or pawn here to d4. Or sometimes they play one move and then the other, so it's going to be pretty much the same thing. So let's imagine they play this move. You're going to start developing your pieces very quickly. Your knight here, the idea is to develop these pieces either here or here, the bishop, and castle long, so you can throw an attack against your opponent fairly easy and fairly quickly. So you develop your knight, your opponent's going to develop the knight. Like I told you, these two are the most common moves. You can predict what white's going to do here. It's very easy to play. Then you pin the knight here. Okay, so you are applying this pressure here. And most common moves here for white are trying to block the pin, to break this pin, or just trying to kick your bishop out. And I'm going to show what to do in either cases. So the most common one here, in my opinion, is this move to break the pin, trying to break the pin here. In this case, you're just going to develop your knight here, right? And continue with your plan. The idea is next move to castle long and strike to the center of the board. So what white's going to do is probably going to castle. You're going to castle as well. And if white develops like this, you can play this move. They can't take here because this powerful X-ray on the queen is pinning the pawn, you know? So if they ever try to do this, you win a queen and you win the game. But they might try to push this pawn. And in that case, you just take with the knight and you're probably going to do really well. So if they push the pawn, trying to maybe think they are trying to, attack your knight here, you actually end up taking this pawn. And if white takes with the knight, you take with the rook. And suddenly you have a very strong attack against white here. And the engine prefers this position for black. They might try to do this, unleashing the attack against your bishop. You trade them, and you have a very good position. This position is definitely better for black, a little bit better for black. So you have some moves here. You can put your bishop out. You can bring your other rook to the game, maybe here or here. And you can pawn storm to the king here because your castle opposite sides. So this game is going to be really sharp and really tactical. Let's go back to this situation where instead of playing bishop here to break the pin, they're going to try to kick your bishop away by playing h3. So against that, you can simply retreat here if you want. They try to keep pushing, you just go here. But you can also trade, which is simpler. I prefer trading to make it just simpler. They're going to take with the queen just to keep the pawn formation intact. And in that case, you're just going to play this move. Remember the move c6 that I told you guys? Because here you can see that this queen is actually threatening some attacks here. If you don't do anything, the queen is just going to come here and destroy your position. So you need to play this to protect, this pawn and this rook, and also to liberate some space for your queen to retreat, just in case, they play something like this. And of course, they're probably going to do that. Here, you don't have to worry if they try to make some kind of discovery attack. It's not going to work. Your pawn is protecting the square. Your knight is here as well. You can just retreat. It's not a big deal. So just develop your knight, trying to go for castling here. If they castle, you just move. It's not a big deal. Trying to control here the center. This pawn structure, by the way, is very popular in the Scandinavian's defense, so this might occur very frequently if you play this opening, and you're going to see it's very common. So these two pawns are controlling this square. You're probably going to put your knight here in the next move. So let's say white puts the king here to a safer position. You can develop your bishop. Now you have the option. You can castle either way. You can castle short, castle long, whatever you prefer. Let's say they develop the bishop, you put your knight in a very good centralized square. They might try to trade it, and this is unleashing this very powerful attack. But also, your queen is aiming this square, so you can take this bishop up here. And when they move the knight away, because remember, it's being attacked, it's protected, but it's not so much, right? You can take the knight, and then you made a bunch of trades, castle long or short, whatever you prefer. Here, the computer prefers castling long a little bit better than castling short, but it's up for choice, whatever you prefer. In this case, if you want to go for a very sharp game, you might try to castle long, castle short, and pawn storm. But this position is fairly equal for black and white. And this is basically the idea, right? To equalize if you're playing black. So this opening can be very good if you're playing it correctly, okay? There are some other variations to play the Scandinavian too. So when white takes here, instead of taking with the queen, some people like to play this move. I like to play this move a lot too. I'm not going to show you this variation in this video, but the most common move here for white is to just protect the pawn, which we're going to take anyway. And after they recapture, we develop the queen. And now there is no knight here to harass the queen anymore. So the development's much simpler. If white goes for something like this, you can just pin the knight here. They're going to try to break the pin. The queen is restricting a lot here. It makes a really good job in this centralized position. You can go ahead and develop this knight, preparing for castling. And if they try to castle themselves, let's say, you can just go ahead and castle yourself. Try to go with the pawns to the center of the board. This rook and queen here are doing a great job. I like to push these two pawns. If they ever try to harass your queen, you can just retreat it here or somewhere safe that you think it's going to be good for you. This position is great for black. You can pawn storm here and deal some damage. So consider playing this opening yourself. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And stay tuned for more videos in the Forking Guide to Chess Openings. I see you guys in the next one.